Entering the Mayo experience.
Mayo experience. Mayo experience. Mayo experience. Experience.
Welcome to the Pat Mayo Experience. Charles Schwab Challenge, updated picks, DraftKings update, weather review, and all of your viewer questions. So you can start filling up the chat on YouTube and the Facebooks and Periscope and Twitter right now. If you want to get your question answered, go ahead and share that shit around too. Retweet it, do what you got to do. Or if you just want to get into a draw for 20 DK bucks, you can share it around. I mean, that's just one way. That's just helping out the show. And I shouldn't say or, I should say and. Smash the like button for the episode, not in the live chat, but in the actual comment section. Leave your DraftKings handle and tell me who you are taking as your one and done at Colonial this week. Reid Fowler will be joining me in just a second, but I did want to break some stuff down and tell you where I'm at coming in, starting off with the betting cheat sheet. You can find the cheat sheet in the description of this video and podcast or in the comment section. The link is just handy. It's right there if you want to follow along or reference it at the very end or later on tonight. Whenever you want to do that, it's there. But for outright winner, I kept the card not necessarily small, but not a huge investment from a monetary perspective. I'm still kind of waiting and feeling out what I want to do with Francesco Molinari. I missed out on the 20 number that Feinberg got earlier in the week. I see it at 18 right now. And I'm still giving that heavy consideration. So I have room on my card for a bigger bet like that, but I'm so overweight on him on DraftKings that I might just roll with it. He's my one and done. If he wins, I do stand to gain from him winning. It would be nice to have some more extra betting bucks for the following week, but here's what I got. I got Snedeker at 60, Kevin Knott 66, C Woo at 80, and Bjorn Hanan at 100. Those are all with the top 5 each ways. And as bombs, I took Brian Stewart at 110, KH Lee at 160, and Boo Weekly, a former winner of this event, and played really well at Heritage. And we'll see Boo's name come up a couple of times here, but he's 400 to 1. And I played all of those with the top 5 each way. So, longer shots down the list, hoping it's not one of those weeks where, Justin Rose or John Rahm or Jordan Spieth ends up winning. And I'm like, really hope my guys came inside the top 5. Top 10s, I played Boo 22 to 1. Top 20s, I played Ben Ann plus 333, so 3.3 times your money, and Boo Weekly at 10 to 1. I played those on Bovada, so there is no dead heat rule. So even if they tie for 19th and there's 80 guys tied for 19th, you'll still get your full payout. That's one of the tricks that you can do on some of these sites. You really do need the rules. Anytime you see no dead heat, you want to take that action. Even if you have to give up a point or two, it's well worth it because of all the ties that happen. First round leaders, I'm going with Brian Stewart, Sean Stephanie, The Gim, Reaper, Doug Gim, Taylor Gooch, KH Lee, Ryan Almail, and Boo Weekly. Those range from 90 to 1 to 175 to 1, all played with the top 5 each way. And for my one and done, I am going with Francesco Molinari. Feinberg is going with Emiliano Grillo, and Cust is going with Xander Schauffele. Those are the picks on the betting cheat sheet to update you on what's going on DraftKings this week in terms of projected ownership. Right now, I have Paul Casey and Ricky Fowler coming in as the 2 highest owned players, lingering right around 20%. As we've seen the past couple of weeks, one of these top 3 guys ends up going way over that number. Everyone just kind of congregates onto one guy. So it wouldn't shock me to see Casey around 25, 26, or even Ricky from that perspective. After that, you're looking at Emiliano Grillo, Joel Damon, Corey Connors, John Rahm, Francesco Molinari, Justin Rose, Scott Piercy, Jim Furyk, Russell Knox. Those are the other guys that will be around 13 to 18%, and then everyone else is just kind of a wash from 11 and down. So if you're thinking about playing the projected ownerships, this week is a bit tougher because of the cut line rules with only 122 people. So many players are going to make the cut that even if a guy is chalky and he's going to finish in the top 5, you're probably going to need him on your team. So you need to diversify yourself in a spot or two. But I wouldn't just be like, hey, Ricky Fowler is going to be super highly owned, I'm not going to play him. Now, I'm not playing Ricky, not for those reasons, but there's other guys that I like around him. I mean, I'd rather pay up for Rose or Rahm, and I'd rather pay down for Molinari. So, you can't take all of the top guys when you're only playing 20 lineups. You really need to condense that core, and Ricky and Xander are just 2 guys that I like, but they didn't end up making the cut for me this week. And, watch one of those 2 guys win, and I'm just going to be ashamed of myself. Weather-wise, at Colonial this week, it's looking gusty, and it's not like an isolated gust. It's just going to be windy all day long on Thursday, on Friday, on Saturday. Sunday, it kind of calms down a little bit, but we're looking at an average wind speed on Thursday across the day of around 15 miles an hour, gusts up around 25 to 30 miles per hour. Ditto for Friday as well, and it's not like the morning has a huge advantage over the evening, at least based on what the weather forecast is saying. If you wanted to play some AM, PM, or PM AM lineups and hope to get lucky with the wind, I would advise doing that if you really want to. I don't see any specific T-stack to really go target, but just getting yourself in a position to get lucky with the wind, knowing that there's a lot of wind and maybe it dies down for 3 hours at the end of one day, that could lead to a substantial advantage, but there's no really way to tell what that's going to be right now. So again, smash the like button for the episode, leave your DraftKings handle in the comment section, not the live chat, and give me your one and done pick for the week. If you leave an audio review, 5 stars, after subscribing, DraftKings handle, something nice about the show, you too will be in a draw for 20 DK bucks. And of course, I'm drawing all the stats and ownership projections and all the modeling and everything like that from fantasynational.com. Become a member at fantasynational.com today. And just really making stuff easier on yourself. It's all the information and tools you need in one spot. Instead of spending like 3 hours doing research, spend like 20 minutes doing research. Fantasy National allows you the efficiency to go do that. Weekly, monthly, yearly, doesn't really matter. I would suggest getting the yearly. It's the best bang for your buck. But if you just want to dip your toe into the water with the weekly, then hey, go for it. It's super good. We'll get to read in a second. I do want to let everyone know, too, that in the description of this video and podcast, the link to the Pat Mayo Experience DraftKings Open is in there. $15 to play, no rake, the best tournament on DraftKings, $60,000. Guaranteed. In the prize pool, there's around 400 spots left. If you were on the fence about getting in, then now's probably the time to do it before it fills by like 5 o'clock tonight. So go get in on that. And on Thursday, I got Jake Seeley back on the show. We're talking football. We got football next week. We got Cuss Corner next week. Tigers back for Memorial. I'll be chatting with Jeff Feinberg about that too. So always subscribe to the video or audio podcast of the Pat Mayo Experience, and you'll never miss a second. Let's get to Reid Fowler, who is in Hawaii right now. It's like 3 a.m. or something crazy like that. How you doing?
Good, buddy. We were just talking earlier that I took the direct flight from Boston here, and it was 11 hours with no Wi-Fi. So now in this connected world in 2019, no Wi-Fi is like a death sentence. But we're all good. I mean, I'm in Hawaii, so I can't complain.
What would, just if you're willing to share this, what is the cost of a direct flight from Boston to Hawaii, that 11-hour flight? I'm guessing it's like $700 round trip.
Yeah, right around there. There's no off season, right? To Hawaii, you can come anytime, and it's going to be fantastic. It's going to be better here than where you're currently at. There's a good chance of it, and I'm obviously a little biased with that opinion, but if you can get around there, yeah, it's not too bad. I mean, obviously, if you leave on Saturday or the Fridays or the Mondays, right, those are going to cost more, but it's around $750.
To get to Hawaii is not bad. Plus, once you get there, since you're from Hawaii, I feel like it's a lot cheaper for you to be there than it would be for like me, unless I went like crash at your parents' place. Yeah,
I mean, and then you do the thing where you know everybody somewhere. So when they see you come back in town, like, oh, I'll just buy you a drink, buy you some food, hang out for a couple bits. So it's good to be this. If you want to, be anonymous, and if you want to have the autonomy, Hawaii is not the place if you're from here, because you know every single person, and you likely have cousins everywhere. Aunties and uncles are everywhere, so you can't do any nefarious business. But it's nice to see everyone, right? It's a small town feel, so I love it.
So for you, in terms of the outright betting card or any initial thoughts that you wanted to make about Colonial, where are you looking at?
Kevin Na. I really like Kevin Na at 66, I think, on DK Sportsbook when I saw it last. I was a little on the fence with him, and then something popped up on Twitter. I don't know if it was they just knew they were listening to my thoughts, but it was when there was a clip from scratch on Twitter where Na was talking with his caddy and saying, like, this is not going over, and then he misses the green, chips in. Obviously, I'm not leaning on that specifically, but just when you look at this course, and obviously with his top 5 finish last year, you like where his game's at coming into this. You like his style of play at this course. You obviously don't need distance here. He gains it off the tee when you're looking at accuracy. And just in that price range at 66, I really like Kevin Na. Billy Horschel was someone that I was looking at for first-round leader over the last 24 rounds. Just when you look at his round 1 scoring, his approach is elite. Now, you got to take that a little bit and dive a little bit deeper, because you want to get on those courses that are like here, but at RBC, these type of courses that we see that are shot makers type of tracks like here, I really like Billy Horschel as a first-round leader coming into this.
Yeah, you know me. I like to play from way down the list in terms of first round leaders, so I can expose my options. I think if it is going to be windy, we could just see a complete rando come out of nowhere and end up being first round leader. I was going to add Carlos Ortiz to that list, and I didn't pull the trigger. Now I feel like I'm going to be an idiot because of that, but I am playing him in DraftKings, so there we go. I love myself some King Carlos. He's back to being the good Ortiz for me until his brother can figure his shit out. The only other one that I wanted to throw out there as a bet that I made, and the only reason I ended up doing it was mainly because I just saw this number. It seemed kind of outrageous, but Boo Weekley in his first round 3-ball, and I so rarely play first round 3-balls, but he's plus 450 to win his pairing, and it's with Bill Haas and Matthew Fitzpatrick. That Boo Weekley has been one of the better players at this course over the years. Like his realistic odds should be like plus 250, and you're getting plus 450 on him. That was on Bet365. I don't know what it is on any of the other sites. It's probably lower because that would be more sensible. But if you see a big number out there, I really like Boo this week, as evidenced by my betting cheat sheet. I just think that he's wildly underpriced versus where his baseline performance should be at this course, because he's been pretty good since he's returned to tour from the injury. He's started twice. He's come T35, T25, and he's still yet to make a putt. He's pretty familiar with Colonial, so I like his prospects this week. Watch him come dead last. That's always going to be fun for me. Let's get to the chat. Again, if you ask a stupid question or you start answering other people's questions, you are banned for life. And I love banning people for life. There's also a Facebook chat out there, too. I'll try to get into Periscope and Twitter, but mainly we'll be focusing on the YouTube chat right now. And question 1 comes from my main man, Nylon Dylon. How will Molinari's subpar PGA Championship affect his ownership? I don't think it's really going to affect his ownership that much. Him being kind of situated in between Fowler and Casey might drop it down a little bit, but I have him at 14% ownership. Like if you go look at his baseline strokes gain numbers, tee to green, he's still doing fantastic in his past 2 starts. Just the putter has just gone absolutely cold. He used up all of his good putting in that one round at API. He hasn't made a putt since. So he's lost 4.5 strokes in each of his past 2 tournaments. You get that back around even, or maybe you gain a stroke or 2. He's sort of the ideal player that you would want for this tournament. He hits a ton of fairways. He's really good with his wedges, and he makes birdies and bunches, and he plays really well in the wind. So I like Francesco a lot this week. I believe he's my own. Well, I don't believe. I know he is my most owned player on DraftKings this week, and I really solidified the core read. I think I have 70% Molinari.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah. And I think actually it's going to be, right around that 14 to 17%, right? Just splitting hairs with a couple of percentage points. If you really like him, 70% is bold. We always have questions that say how much is too much, right? And that's totally up to you. What I think will keep his ownership up, though, is you look at Xander, Finau, DeChambeau. A lot of question marks around these guys at this specific tournament. Xander, clearly was a favorite of ours last week. Just didn't show up, right, in terms of finishing position.
Well, I mean, he showed up, except he made 5 straight bogeys to end his round, and that really killed his top 10.
Right, exactly. So with that being said, right, the sentiment around those 3 guys at that price tag, not a lot's coming in. Popular plays, right? Finau, DeChambeau, Schauffele. So they're not going to be totally off the book. But I think Molinari has been talked up enough, and his approach game is elite, right? And that's what you want here. And so I think that ownership is going to stay in that 15 to 17%.
So next question. Oh, we were going to go with Terra Rusha. Hey, Pat, huge fan of the show. Huge fan of you, sir. If you had to pick a player worth $6K, who would you go with? Like $6K only? I don't see anyone. I'm not taking Mike Weir. I can tell you that much. I mean, I'd go up to 6,100 and play Armour or Ortiz. Like like none of these 6K guys are any good. At least those 2 guys have a pulse. I
mean, what's your feeling on Wee Kim?
Oh, is Wee Kim? Oh, yeah. I guess he's the lowest priced player. I mean, I have no real thoughts on Wee Kim, but I'm playing like every other Asian dude in the field.
Exactly. Me too. No, you pay up for Armour. Even in the mixed condition model that I'm running, he doesn't stat out great, but he's top half to what I'm looking at. So yeah, play Armour.
So, I mean, we haven't talked about Wee Kim in a while, so I need to give the people a Wee Kim. He has played in 9 events in 2019. He has made the cut once, and he came T71. That was at the Puerto Rico Open in an alternate event. Things have not been going well for old Wee lately. He's off doing something else.
Yeah, not the best Kim out there right now. So fade Wee Kim, pay up for 100, save somewhere else.
Any take on Taylor the Gooch this week? He's killing it in my model, but I'm skeptical because it's Taylor Gooch. You don't need to put a Y in Taylor Gooch either. It's just Talor, which is the only time I've ever seen the name spelled like that. Just odd. I don't actually mind the Gooch. I'm using him a little bit. I think I have him in 3 of 20 DK lineups. Like I said, I bet him his first round leader. He was playing really well before the injury at the Players, and the approach game was on. He's not really all that great off the tee, but that is de-emphasized here, that if he can continue and roll back into having the great approaches, he is at least someone in this range that I know can pile up birdies in bunches. You always worry about the wind, and some guys aren't great in the wind, and maybe the wind blows his tees into the woods, and then he's screwed, and then it doesn't matter how well you hit your approaches because you can't hit your approaches. But I think that he's a good enough gamble in this range that if you wanted to mix and match some 6K guys, he's on my short list. He made my lineups.
Yeah, we've seen him pop right this season. We've seen him do well, like you mentioned before his injury. So I think he's right there. We always see around this time that guys maybe take some tournaments off, and because of injuries, we saw it obviously with JT. But yeah, Gooch is a great play. I mean, if you look at other guys in the 6K range that I personally like, Adam Schenk is there. He's gaining a lot with his putter, right? That kind of scares you a little bit, but he's playing well. He's making cuts. I think 6 of his last 10. The other guy right there is Jonas Blix, who I usually don't play.
You always play him.
I never
always
play Blix. I mean, if it's a die course, there's like 50 die courses that we play on the PGA Roto, so Blix always kind of comes up, right? And maybe I'm getting ahead of the viewer questions here that Blix might be a question mark. But if we get a course that sets up a little bit like RBC, like Harbor Town, some of these shot-making courses, Blix isn't bad. He's got a couple of top 20s, a couple of top 25s here. Again, gaining a lot with his putter. His approach game isn't the greatest, but he's been standing out pretty nicely for me. So I like Jonas Blix, like 2 of 20 lineups, obviously, in the 6K range as well.
So the next question is from Joe Green. Sorry, great job. I'm playing Spieth and Bryson. Do you think I should pair them up? If it goes bad, it's minimal, or split them so I can get one right and it might be okay? I mean, I don't think that either one of those two have any correlation to one another. Like, they're both completely different types of players. I'm not playing Spieth and I am playing Bryson, so I would just recommend playing Bryson and not playing Spieth.
Yeah, exactly. Tee draws are the same. They're both AM, PM stacks, so that doesn't really change anything. I'm not playing either. I'm fading Bryson for some stupid reason. I'm playing Tony this week because I can't get off of him. But I'm fading Bryson and Spieth, so take it for what it's worth.
Going back to the 2018 Players Championship, Xander has not been great in the next tournament after playing a major. What do you guys think? I didn't even realize that. And, I mean, why are we including the Players into this? That's not a major. Let's be real about this. I don't know. Maybe he just mentally exhausts himself. Maybe he gets tired from playing in these majors. I don't know. I'm not using Xander this week, so I hope that holds true to form. He missed the cut at this tournament last year, too.
Yeah, I mean, if he's, sort of the Brooks Koepka light where he just shows up at majors and then doesn't play well at these smaller tournaments, that's hard to look at. I think that works a little bit. We saw it with the Masters, right? There was some correlation with guys that played in the finishing groups, played all the way through Sunday. There was some fatigue set there, especially with Francesco, and I forget what that tournament was right after the Masters. I can't recall right now, but I wouldn't pay too much attention to it. For me personally, I like Xander this week. I think he's strong with his approach. I think when you look at these top guys, he ranks out in terms of power ranking for me about 3rd in the elite range. So I'm playing him.
Josh asks, Furyk in GPPs or cash? I'm not using Furyk anywhere. I just know he's going to be popular, and he's one of the sort of the ownership stands that I took only because there's 2 guys right around him that I like just as much. I like Corey Connors and I like Brian Stewart. I think they match up well for this course, so I ended up playing no Jim Furyk, but I think you could use him in either, to tell you the truth.
You're not going to your boy Benny Ann at 75?
Well, yeah, of course.
Of course.
Come on. I mean, all I do is lose money. Of course I'm playing Benny Ann.
Matt Jones is – I usually just gloss over this guy.
Matt Jones.
I gloss over him all the time, right? I see his name and I'm like, nah, it's Matt Jones. But man, this guy's made 9 of 10 cuts. He's gaining strokes off the tee. It's coming mostly through distance, not necessarily accuracy. But man, he's like I said, he's made 9 of his last 10 cuts. He's 11th in strokes gained off the tee over the last 24 rounds. He's 4th in that par 3 scoring at 175 to 200. This guy has been playing extremely well. Approach, he's, kind of middle of the pack at 50th over the last, 6 tournaments. But at 7,500, if you can get him, especially with guys going off of Benny Ann for 10, 12%, maybe more, I think Matt Jones is a nice little pivot there at 7,400.
I can see it. Matt Jones, yeah, like you mentioned, has just been playing exceptionally well over the past month or so. I can get on board with that. It's not for me, but I get it. Let's go to the Facebook chat. Bryce asks, a $6,100 flyer, Armour or Ortiz? I probably Ryan Armour, just because I know he's going to hit every single fairway. We know that Ortiz can get a bit wonky with his drives. If we look at the end of the week and one of them has won, the answer is probably Carlos Ortiz. But if anyone has finished between like 8th and 35th, it's probably Ryan Armour. And at this price point, you're just looking for cut equity. And I think that Ryan Armour probably has a better chance to make the cut.
Yeah, same here. Because I would say the same exact thing. So, I mean, 6,100, you're splitting hairs with the safer pick. Armour, obviously, we've seen him do well, right? We've seen him pop last season. We've seen him do well in the swing season this year. So, Armour for me.
Let's see. Any love for Richie Werenski? It's a tough one to say for me. I have a wisp, so it happens. PGA cut made. Well, fantastic. Werenski's all about putting. If he putts well, he's going to make the cut. If he putts even like slightly above average to average, he's going to be like the last guy in the field. The guy cannot hit an iron to save his life right now. He has historically performed better on these shorter courses. We've seen him pop at Career Builder and Valspar in the past, but there's nothing right now that would indicate, besides a hot putter, that he's going to do any damage this week.
No. Yeah, I'm off of him.
Okay.
Pass.
Let's see. Do you think the wind will be up strong enough to affect players like Casey, Xander, Knox, and Kisner, since Xander sucked it up on Sunday? Xander just got it going bad at the end of Sunday when the wind picked up, but there's a big difference between wind at Bethpage and wind at Colonial. This is a much shorter course. You can keep your ball flight low because you don't have to hit 320-yard drives. The driving distance at Colonial is one of the shortest on the PGA Tour, so I wouldn't really worry me as much. I think the wind will affect everyone equally, and like some of the other guys that you mentioned, like Knox and Casey and Kisner, are all actually really good wind players. So, it doesn't really affect me here whatsoever. Gooch and Gim make the cup. It'll be good. No one really cares about your commentary, pal. If you do that again, you will be banned for life. Just throwing that out there.
I was ready. I thought you were going to do it. I was ready to give the old get out of here.
No, I'll allow for one to sneak through. Bill asked, thoughts on Max Hama this week? He's not that good is the problem, and he finally got it going right. The ball striking was really good at the PGA Championship, but I always just want him at longer courses versus shorter courses.
Yeah, same here. I think the Max Hama train is about to stop, so I'm out.
Brian says, I'm going heavy on Knox and Danny Lee. Could you please tell me their projected ownership? I sure can. Knox is going to be relatively chalky. I have him around at 14%. And Danny Lee, I have around 11%. So nothing too overwhelming. And even playing the two together, I mean, that gets you away from a lot of that ownership. So I don't mind it. This one says, pay, where'd you get that shirt from Paul Casey? Now, you see, you don't understand how to use punctuation. Also, you're a moron, it seems, because you can't spell. And this is very clearly the Patrick Reed Sunday Masters shirt, you idiot.
Yep.
Come on now.
I was going to say, that's the marquee Patrick Reed Sunday.
You know what? Yeah. Banned for life.
Yes.
Fuck off. At least learn how to fucking spell. Come back next week. Thoughts on Billy Horschel? So you like Billy Horschel, or I had really no interest in Billy Horschel.
I didn't either. Not for Friday through Sunday. Just first round leader.
What?
Yeah.
If he has a good first round, at least it means he's in the mix.
But like he was one of those guys that I was just looking at as keeping in the player pool, and kind of he pops at some of these shot making courses. But I like him on more difficult tracks. This is not necessarily the hardest. I think it ranked inside the top 20 last year, but I just like his stats coming into the first round. And just looking at what he's been able to do in that price range, I like guys a lot better than Billy Ho.
Charles asks, Burns or Gooch or someone else $7,100 or less? I mean, I prefer Gooch over Burns, but I have an entire list of those guys in the cheat sheet, which you can find in the description of this video. You just look at the list and you can see the guys that I like in the 6K area. Do you think guys playing this course for the first time have a harder time, or it doesn't matter? Well, Justin Rose played this course for the first time last year and won. Rahm played it 2 years ago for the first time and came second. So no, maybe it matters to guys that aren't really good, but if you have a skilled player, I don't think it matters whatsoever.
No. I mean, you see guys, Jordan Spieth, Zach Johnson do well here, so you can kind of go off of course form a little bit. But then you're playing Jordan Spieth. I like Zach Johnson this week. I've said it earlier in some of the shows in the sweat that even the old guys we talked about on Twitter, the old guys this season have been playing well. So I do like Zach Johnson, but I'm not doing too much of course form.
Griot and Zach Johnson ownership. I got Griot around 19% and Zach Johnson around 10. Pick one, Matt Jones, Jimmy Walker, or Russell Knox. I actually like Jimmy Walker the best of that group.
Wow. I would go Jones, Knox, and then Walker.
Okay, down on now Walker. No first round Charlie Hoffman bets. I mean, I told you what my first round bets were. If the name wasn't on that, it's very fucking clear that the answer is no. Like, come on, man, give your head a shake. Is grouping Casey, ZJ, and Sneds too safe for GPPs? Does Furyk fit into the same group of guys? I don't understand what that means, too safe. I mean, we've seen Casey burn us all plenty of times that we know he's definitely not safe. I don't hate that build. I mean, I'm playing Casey and Sneds. I don't have any ZJ. He says, does Furyk fit into that same group of guys? I mean, you're taking guys with like mid-teens ownership, putting them all together. I don't hate it. It does sound like more of a cash build, but even Snedeker is kind of off the charts a little bit too. That I would say of like the safe guys, Zach Johnson's probably the safe guy from that group.
Yeah, and it's Snedeker, like you mentioned, where we've seen him also burn us as well. Zach Johnson's, he's lost strokes game putting over the last 2 tournaments. Now we get him back on bent. That's nice. And so any of these guys are, can miss the cut. And so just going off a percentage on who we're playing and who the public is playing isn't necessarily a safe play. And you're talking about cut equity down in that range. Yeah, Zach Johnson is probably the best one there. But I mean, like I've played Snedeker in spots and thought that it was great at, some of these majors or hard tournaments, and he's absolutely missed the cut. So, I mean, the only guy that I have any quote unquote faith over is Zach Johnson.
Tell me why Shank shouldn't be the highest owned player under 7K. He could rival up there, but he's coming off a really bad week. Don't forget that at the Byron Nelson when he was super chalky, so that could be one of the reasons. Seems underpriced based on year-long form, and the stats are solid across the board. So I have the same initial reaction to this Adam Shank price, because I love playing Adam Shank. He's one of the guys that I just roll out every single week. But I went and actually looked at where he does well and where he doesn't do well. And where I wrote it up. I've talked about it, like Heritage, Valspar, Wyndham, all sort of correlate to this course. Short tracks where accuracy matters and you're playing with your short irons. And you go back and look at his results. He was 13th at Wells Fargo. That's a Bombers track. He was 7th at Valero. That's a Bombers track. Corrales, 33rd. That's a Bombers track. Valspar, missed the cut. Heritage, missed the cut. He just doesn't gain the same amount of strokes with his approaches as he does at these longer courses. He's not as good with his wedges as he is with his irons from like 150 and beyond. And that can be really problematic this week since so many of the shots come from 150 and in. That is the reason why I have no Adam Shank.
Yeah, is he like a poor man's Matt Fitzpatrick for you? Like just plays way better on these longer courses than he should, and then plays absolute shit on these shorter courses, like you mentioned, right? I mean, RBC, John Deere courses that he should do well at. The field's not that strong, and if his stats are saying that he's playing well, he should do well there, but he just doesn't. Maybe he needs to get up for these tournaments that he shouldn't do well in. We don't know the psyche. Stats out nicely. It's going to hit at some point if he keeps on putting out good performances. And that's why I'm a little bit on Fitz this week. I never play Matthew Fitzpatrick, but this week I am, just because I think that's going to be something that we see here that just moves a little bit towards his favor. But yeah, Shank's stats out well for me, and I'm not too worried about that because I think he's playing well this season.
Boban says, great content this week. Thanks, Boban. But no airtime for Stroud or the lost Jonas brother. Look like the best cheap plays to me. I mean, Jonas Blixt is an absolute dumpster fire. He's either second place or the last guy in the field, and Stroud has just been ass. Like for the past 2 months, he's missed 4 consecutive cuts. He hasn't gained on approaches since the Genesis back in the end of January. So this is a course that should theoretically set up better for him, but he's just not been playing well at all. Thoughts on playing McDowell over Snedeker because of him maybe being chalky, or the hell with it and play them both? I don't like McDowell here. I like him. I mean, I guess the wind works in his favor, but he generally just plays well at coastal courses, and this is most definitely not a coastal course in the heart of Texas in Fort Worth. So I would just eat the Snedeker chalk, and I don't even know how popular is Snedeker going to be. I got him at 13%. Like, that's not that popular.
Yeah, what do you think of Grace this week? I mean, if it's going to be a slogger's course, what do you think of him?
He was one of my last cuts to everything. Like, I thought about betting him at 100-1. I thought about putting him in my player pool, and I couldn't get on board with it. I have no feel for Grace this week, and I feel like it's going to come back to bite me in the ass. Yeah,
I mean, that's like you mentioned, you're playing long form with Grace, and the archetype of what the conditions are going to be. Brendan Grace at 7,500, he's right around there with these other guys. Daniel Berger's right there as well. Solid win player. But Grace is another one. I mean, if you want to kind of go off of ownership and you're saying, hey, like, I just don't want to play the chalk this week because the field, albeit is stronger than usual, it's not that strong. I think Grace is a solid play. And, it's splitting hairs, but and I think Feinberg mentioned this earlier on your Monday show that you can't look at Grace's numbers because they're absolute shit. It's more of a field play. So I like Grace this week.
So the next one is, sorry if you've mentioned this, but where do you get ownership projections? I get mine from fantasynational.com, and then I can tweak them around a little bit. So become a member at fantasynational.com. Ownership projections is one of the many, many, many tools that are available to all members, regardless of where you get in on the weekly, monthly, or yearly, along with tournament simulator, head-to-head projections, custom model, mixed condition model, tournament factors, course history, recent form, lineup generator. It's all there for you. Just become a member of fantasynational.com. Simon asks, Reid, Pat, studs and duds strategy or the balanced approach? I played a lot of studs and duds this week. I don't think very many people are going to do that. I actually played specifically, not a lot of, but out of my 20 lineups, I believe I played 3 Rose Rom lineups and see how that shook down. So I don't think it's something that's going to be super popular. And we talked about this last week at the PGA Championship. We got it right. We just got the players wrong. It was Dustin and Brooks, not Dustin and Rory, that we should have taken. But that was the optimal build that you wanted to go with. Then you had to figure out the rest of the pieces, just like you will this week. But I just think this is a course where good players show up, and you see them inside the top 10 all the time. So I think that two guys over 10K, or even Rahm Molinari, Rose Molinari, that kind of thing, or whoever the guys you like above 10K are, pairing 2 of them together, I think is probably the move.
Yeah, I mean, if we're talking about Ryan Armour at 6,100 as a play that we like, and we've repeated that on this show already a few times, then it's going to allow you to get that build up top there with 2 11K guys. Rahm is, I mean, this is unbelievable. I didn't believe this when I saw this, is that he's not lost stroke. I mean, outside of last week, he hasn't lost strokes off the tee since Memorial in 2017. And so just looking at Fantasy National, how much, going back, how many stats they have of Rahm and Shot Tracker, this guy's only lost strokes off the tee twice since he's been on tour of the tournaments that have Shot Tracker, obviously, and what I'm seeing on Fantasy National now. I mean, that's unbelievable that this guy is gaining all of these strokes off the tee. He's deploying the bomb and gouge, which is sort of against what we're all thinking, and he does well. So I really like playing Rahm over Rose, or even if you want to play both, like you mentioned. I think that's a completely fine strategy this week.
Yeah, I like Rose more than I like Rahm, but I do like them both the most of the guys above 10,000. Just Rose significantly more. That's why he's in 50% of my lineups, and Rahm's in 20% of my lineups. Next question. Jared asked, Damon or Reevy? I like Damon.
Yeah, Damon as well.
All right. Daniel, have you looked at Nick Taylor? Heard he Monday qualified and played well. I don't know if he Monday qualified. He Monday qualified for the U.S. Open. So he's in that field coming up. Him and Mike Weir, 2 Canadians getting in the field from that sectional qualifying. Nick Taylor's fine. I do like him a little bit, but he didn't end up cracking my player pool.
No, and he's doing it, again, with putting. Nick Taylor's top 25 in putting in the last 24 rounds. I just don't have a feel for Nick Taylor. I never play him, so I'm going to be passing on him.
HR says, Bo Hossler. Man, people fucking love Bo Hossler. Seemed to turn the corner at Bethpage in rough conditions. How do you feel about him for a top 20? Let's see what he actually did at. If we just go through his round by round, he gained strokes once on approach. Fantastic. That's incredible news for Bo Hossler, to tell you the God's honest truth. Putting, just big on putting. He was all right. He's good at scrambling, and this isn't a course where you really need to scramble. You need to hit fairways. You need to hit greens, and if you're not going to be doing that, I have no faith in Bo Hossler. He's like Denny McCarthy for me, that he'll pop from time to time because he is such a good putter, but you're also just banking on the putting that if they don't have in a really above average week on the greens, they're screwed.
Yeah, I was just about to mention McCarthy, where you see him, right, the 7 out of 10 or 6 out of 10 made cuts, and you think, okay, well, it's 6,700 or 60, whatever he is, 6,500, that's cut equity that you want. Now, it's not necessarily just making the cut. Obviously, with this being a field that 6 of 6 is probably going to be what you need, right, with it being invitational at 122. You need guys that, are going to get the play, birdie or better. You get the ball in the fairway and not necessarily gain it with putting. And you mentioned it. This is not a course that, even though the greens might be a little tricky, this is not a course that you need around the green proclivity or aptitude for around the green. And Bo Hossler at 6,700, give me Taylor Gooch over him, 9 times out of 10.
Eric Sarr says Neiman 50 to win 550. Lock it up. Well, that doesn't sound like a question. Now, does it, Reid?
No, it doesn't.
Is the name of the show the Eric Sir Experience?
No.
So let me tell you something. Let me tell you something, Eric Sir. No one gives a shit what you think, and you're fucking banned for life. Fuck you. Nick, are there any players this week that you were removing or adding on the pool based on the win forecast? No.
No.
Okay. Michael, hey, Pat, do you rate out Max Hama this week? Playing great lately. We've touched on Max Hama. Big no for me.
Yeah, no as well.
Heavy win forecast equals follow Feinberg's Knox mention. I think Knox is just a fine play objectively. I'm not using him anywhere. I didn't bet him, but I get why people would be on him.
Yeah, he gains thought through approach. Ball striking is elite. You see it right there. I have no feel for Knox. I'm not playing him, but I get why you want to. I mentioned the guys that I like in that range a little bit more, like a Zach Johnson, but I don't mind it.
Hey, Pat, do you think that there is anything to it or just a coincidence that this tournament hasn't had a first-time winner since 01 in Sergio, who had won on the European Tour before that in 1989? I don't think that Sergio won on the European Tour in 1989. I hate to tell you. I think Sergio was like 10 years old at the time. Either way, maybe it's such a historical course. It takes a lot of strategy to get around. Local knowledge does help a little because you do see a lot of guys pop up inside the top 20. And where it is an invitational, I believe it's the third oldest tournament at the same course over and over, that it generally does draw a very good field where you see a lot of first-time winners win some of these longer courses, or they get a hot putter that Colonial mitigates a lot of those factors where good players do tend to rise to the top. So that could be a part of it too. Or it could just be a coincidence. Like, it's a really impossible thing to know. But if you want to go with that narrative, I mean, I've gone with worse narratives, so it's open season.
Yeah. 75th or 74th time that Colonial has been on the PGA Tour schedule. I mean, yeah, it's like second or third only to Augusta, I think. So there is a lot of, right, there's guys who play here a bunch, just have a local knowledge. And you see it in the quotes with like Zach Johnson and John Rahm has mentioned it. If you have strategy, keeping the course in front of you is what these guys always say, is playing the course from the pin back to you off the tee, getting the balls in the right spot off the tee is key, right? And missing it in the right spots is key. We've seen, especially when the wind picks up as well, right? It's one of the main defenses of this course, is that you see that score around -10, -9, where Adam Scott won that one year. I think Spieth won it too when the wind was high up. So even with that being a case as well, how do you navigate around the course? So yeah, if you want to take that narrative, I don't mind it at all either.
Dustin asks, hey, Pat, love the show. Love you, Dustin. What is Poulter's ownership looking like? I got him around 10% coming into the week. People kind of backed off Poulter a little bit, myself included, and maybe that's a mistake. Sean, I bring up your show to my fiancée, and she asked if I was going on the keto diet. Funny how we're both fans for different reasons. I don't actually do the keto diet. It's Paul from behind the camera who's big on the keto diet. I just live a healthy lifestyle. Oh, and I'm frozen too. Am I frozen to you?
No, I see. Just the pink shirt is vibrant.
Yeah, that's strange. Ownership projection for Joel Damon and Scott Piercy. I got Joel Damon coming in around, let's see here. Joel Damon coming in around 16%, one of the chalkier players of the week, and Scott Piercy at 15%. So they're going to both be up there. I wonder if I can still be heard from this time forward. If I scroll to the bottom of the chat, I'm sure someone will tell me. Let's see. Yeah, our computer has frozen, but you're still there?
Yeah, I'm still here.
You're still here. I don't know what's going on.
Is it just you and me talking?
If anyone out there can say, if anyone in the chat can let me know if you can still hear me, even on the frozen screen, can you let me know, please? People are still putting in questions. That's always good. I can see the questions coming up. That's not good.
There?
No,
Yeah, I'm still here. I'm still here.
I don't know what's going on. Yeah, apparently we can still hear. So yeah, I guess we're just doing it audio-wise from now on, all right? Unless the computer comes back. We're good to go, Paul, right?
I can't see anything.
It's live TV.
All right, yeah, when we live and the computer shuts down, we've been having blinking problems. Now we have this. So, all right, let's keep pounding out these questions. Last roster spot, would you go Knox or Matt Jones? I would go neither, but I think I would go Matt Jones.
Yeah, Matt Jones for me.
All right. Super high on Matthew Fitzpatrick this week, and I don't really knows why. Does he strike you as one of those guys destined to win? Absolutely not. People know that I hate Matthew Fitzpatrick.
Yeah, he's never a good play. But for whatever reason, looking at that range, I like him as a pivot. I'm playing him like the first time in I think 2 years. So I like him this week. Probably going to bite me in the ass.
What do you think of Hatton being a sneaky GPP play? I would actually get on board with that. I do like him as a sneaky GPP play. The sneakiest guy I used this week was Louis, though.
Yeah, I don't think Hatton's going to be that sneaky. I think we've a lot of people have talked about him in the industry. I think Fanshare has him up, in their trends or their impressions or their buzz in around 5 out of 10, which is about average. So around 4 out of 10, not too bad. So I don't think he's going to be as much of a sleeper. Not bad.
Pat, you talked a little bit about Carlos Ortiz on the show with Ben and said you were probably going to put him on the list. How did you and Reid feel about it? I ended up using Carlos Ortiz, so I'm in.
I've played Carlos Ortiz a few weeks, and the few weeks that you're not supposed to play Carlos Ortiz, you missed the cut. I guess we talked about guys in that 6K range. Ryan Armour's way down there, so I'm not going to be playing Carlos Ortiz.
Rom and Rose ownership percentages. I got Rose at 16%, Rom at 17%. So they're going to be in that range. I can see one of those guys dropping and one of those guys going up because it doesn't feel like people want to pay all the way up this week for the pricing.
Yeah, same here.
Who do you like around Coke Rack price since he WD'd? A lot of people are going to Griot. I actually went up to Louis. That's sort of like where I'm making a stand. I got him coming in at 5% this week. So he had a top 5 here last year. If he has a top 5 again this year at 5%, you're looking pretty good.
What's your feel on Palmer? I was looking at him, and obviously he has Texas ties, and we're probably going to hear that. People are going to ask questions about that, and he seems like he's doing better, like just passing the eye test where he's playing better, but his finishes aren't correlating with that. He was a cut for me, but what do you think?
Nah, pass.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Because you think with approach and ball striking, this is sort of that type of course and a Palmer type course where you can do well. But yeah, I just didn't have any feel for him.
Who would you prefer in a 3 max build? Snedeker, Hatton, or McDowell? I would go with Snedeker.
Yeah, same.
All right. Scott, Molinari is the perfect game for this course. Thoughts on him? Go rewind to the very beginning when I talk about Molinari because I agree with you. Reid is pretty good at banking that 6K range guy. Who you got this week, Reid?
Well, I mean, the 6K guys that I really like, Ryan Armour at 60. You want to know how much you can bank on that. KH Lee is another guy that I really like. I think he's in that 6'9" range, I believe. Stats out really nicely for me. And then, yeah, I mean, Jonas Blix is probably be the end of my streak of calling 6K guys, but that's another one that I like.
See, now you're picking too many 6K guys. It was to the point where you were just, you were banking on that one, like your Max Hama or your CT Pan, and that was good enough.
KH Lee, that's my only one.
I hope you're right, because I bet KH Lee at 160 to 1. So I would
Yeah.
enjoy that coming through. The next 2 questions, one about Michael Thompson. It's not on Bermuda. I'm out on Michael Thompson. He was a disaster. Yeah. I mean, the PGA Championship stuff, but he was really bad. And the next one's about Anirban Lahiri, who's gay. Lahiri has lost strokes tee to green in every tournament this year. That's not good.
Yeah. I mean, I'm surprised it took this long. I think it's the first time we've had a Lahiri question this season. So I'm surprised it took this long, but no way. I mean, give me the Boz over Lahiri, and Boz is terrible.
Any love for Texas native Abraham Answer? I prefer him at courses where you gain more strokes, where it's better to gain strokes through approach than it is off the tee. He gains a ton off the tee. He is very good with his wedges, though, so I could see that coming through. Feinberg bet him at like 80 to 1. I couldn't get on board, though.
Oh, man, in my mixed model too, he's like dead last. Like it's taking wind into approach with windy conditions through approach off the tee, and he's just bad in those conditions. So no.
Any head-to-heads intrigue you? I got Fowler over Spieth and Rose versus Rahm. I would stay away from that Rose versus Rahm, but I really do like that Fowler versus Spieth. I like any of the high-end guys versus Spieth this week because where Spieth has come back and his odds have dropped again, where he's now one of the favorites that you're getting really good prices to get a bet against him.
Yeah, I think there was one with Molinari that was enticing on Sportsbook. It's over the top guys. I think you can get him at a pretty decent number at plus 450. So if you believe in Molinari, I think it's a solid play. It might have been a 3-ball or something of that ilk. So if you can look on there, I think it's, with what we're projecting on how Molinari is going to do, I'm personally not going to be on him. But if you want to bet him at that head-to-head, I think that's a good one too. Yeah,
the Ricky over Spieth one is the only one that I played. It was like minus 115, I think, which isn't bad. Just because, not even that I love Ricky, but I just don't like Spieth. How many guys are in your typical player pool for 3, 20, and 150 lineups? That depends on you. In my 20 lineups this week, I believe I have 18 players. So I really tried to cut it down as best as possible. Rose Ricky stacks make sense with more players making the cut. I think that any of those sort of like high ends make a lot of sense, or sense, as you would say, if you're going to do it.
Yeah. Guys that I'm just fading off the top, Ricky and Spieth, and Molinari, the guys that I'm fading specifically for DraftKings. I mentioned I like Molinari as a bet, head to head, but those are the guys I'm fading. So
top plays in the 6K range, hit the cheat sheet for that. They're all in a list form in descending order from price, so that's pretty easy. Any thoughts on Ian Poulter? We just went through that. Hey, Pat, thoughts on Pat Perez on a shorter course? I was on Perez last week, and I was feeling really good about myself through 2 days. I had a top 20 bet on him. He was in a bunch of my lineups. Then I think he was like 187 over par for the final 2 rounds, so that's never great. I get it. I couldn't pull the trigger. I feel like I'm giving up too early on Pat Perez and his comeback, but I got bad vibes.
Yeah, we had him on the it was Perez over Stanley, and Stanley just couldn't make a putt to say. I mean, that's Stanley's game. I should have expected that. But then after Stanley misses a cut, Perez goes, like you mentioned, plus 200 over, and I lose my head to head. But no love for Pat Perez. I like him earlier in the season.
Emmett Smith. Wow, Emmett Smith watching the show or listening to the show now because the video is broke. Hey, Pat. No, that's the Pat Perez question. Oh, Desmond asks, $8,000 range. Piercy over Grillo. Thoughts? I did it. I used Piercy. I didn't use Grillo, so I'm on board.
Yeah, I like it as well. I'm fading Grillo. Probably not a great move, but I just don't like that ownership number. And Kevin Na at 8 flat is one of my favorite plays.
What mixed model stats are you weighing the heaviest in your model? How much are you weighing stats at Colonial versus 24 rounds everywhere else? I haven't even run a mixed condition model yet. I looked at corollary courses when I looked at Sony. I looked at Valspar. I looked at John Deere Classic, and I looked at Wyndham and Heritage, and just tried to find like sleepers that played well here. But we see the same sorts of high-end players do well here all the time, and ball strikers who are bad at putting do well here all the time. Just guys that hit an absurd amount of greens in regulation and high in opportunities gained, that I just put in strokes gained approach, and opportunities gained really went on my way.
Yeah, the ones I'm using, par 4 scoring, just I want to see how they do in windier conditions, in par 4 scoring. I usually go over the last 36 rounds, so I want it a little bit longer form. I'm looking at the mixed condition model off the tee. Some of the stuff that I really want to hone in on, I'll just look at it a little bit closer with the conditions.
Is there anything not to like about how this course sets up for Ricky Fowler this week? Irons, putting, par 4s. He's near the top across the board. I don't like his short iron play, at least recently. It's been really, truly horrible. And I like the other guys in that range better. Like I like Rose more, I like Rahm more, I like Molinari more. So therefore, there's no room to play Ricky Fowler. It's not a hate fade, but it's just a fade because I like the other guys more.
Yeah, is this a place where like Ricky, we want him to show up for a major, he doesn't, and then he comes out here and he obliterates the field. I don't know if it feels like that because it's a pretty strong field. Gains a ton through his putting. I just have no feel for Ricky, so I'm out.
Brian Harmon plays really good at this course. Great comment. But having a lot of missed cuts, do you think he is a good play? No. Peter Malnati, the top 20 scrub we need this week. He made the short list, didn't make the final cut. I see it with him, but I like the other guys more.
What about Feinberg's boy, Peter Uihlein, or another Peter in there?
I mean, no.
No. Yeah, I mean, there's a name down there in the 6K range. Stay away. No Molinari for me either.
Any Palmer or Reeve love, debating on where to make a lineup play around that mid 8K range. Good stuff as always. Thanks. And even though you can't see me, I recommend that everyone go smash the like button. That would be very helpful to me. I have no shares of either of those two guys.
No, I'm looking at other guys. Damon, 8,200. Fitzpatrick for me at 85.
Let's see. Love this stuff. Grillo or Piercy? I'm going Piercy.
Yeah, Piercy.
How do you use Fantasy National to gauge how good players are in the wind? The results are accurate, but choosing windy AF conditions, or do I have to manually check each player for SG in the wind? Judging players in the wind is very difficult to do because every course, when it's affected by the wind, plays completely differently. Like where this is a tree line course, it's not going to be the same as like Byron Nelson, where there are no trees and wind is just swirling around everywhere. So, like if you go to Torrey Pines, that there's sections of that courses that are not tree covered that just play incredibly difficult. We saw that at Bethpage last week, where if you have more of an open space, then the wind is going to make a bigger deal. So if you do select windy AF, that's over 17 miles per hour on on Fantasy National. That would be a way to gauge how players play in the wind. You don't need to do anything else. All the stats update and only weight rounds where the wind was over 17 miles per hour. So that is a really good way to look at it. But I find that a lot of these wind stats are very, very, very noisy.
Yeah, I like to just, so you're kind of going off what you're saying. The mixed model allows you to be a little bit more specific. So I'll even account for how the scoring relative to par fared in the rounds that I want to look at with average scoring, right? Kind of correlate the two. It's not an apples to apples comparison, just gives you a sort of a swath of what you're looking at. And then again, going long term, trying to gather all of that to where it gives you different course conditions at different places. Those are the things I look at when I'm looking at the ancillary or the secondary stats.
Greg asked CT Pan ownership. I got him at 4%. Thoughts on Nate Lashley making the cut? He was another guy I gave some consideration to. I like him more at longer courses than shorter courses, though.
Yeah, same here.
Is Kisner going to be too popular in the one and done? I don't think so.
No, I don't think so either. I mean, 9,200, pretty expensive, but I took Kevin Na on my one and done.
On Sunday Showdown, how much do you take into account final position points when picking players? Say a player like Brooks has a 7-shot lead entering the final round. If you almost need to have the winner in Sunday Showdown. I don't know if it really worked out that way this week because Brooks ended up shooting like 75 or whatever it was. But those finishing points are so valuable that you almost do take the guy who's up by a bunch. Yeah, you have to. I mean, the other courses, right, like, and I can't recall, maybe RBC or some other ones where you can get these guys coming from behind, birdie and better guys on those tracks. But this one, not so much. Mike says, here both y'all frozen, though. No shit. You fucking asshole. Is Xander going to be low owned due to most guys paying up for Ricky or down to Molly? I have him below those two guys. I have Spieth and Finau and Bryson as the 3 lowest owned. I have Xander around 11%. I guess this is the final one because this is the only question left in the chat. I guess people are tuning in thinking it's frozen and they can't still hear us talk. But if you do have questions, load them in right now. And if we can get up to like 70 likes here on the chat, then I'll keep it going. Bill asked, what do you guys think about Brian Stewart this week? I bet Brian Stewart. I bet him his first round leader. I bet him to win. And I'm using him in DraftKings lineup. I like Brian Stewart a lot. Yeah, I like him a lot as well. A good drives is what I'm kind of looking at, a little bit more than fairways gain. He ranks out top 10. Ops gain, the top 25. He's at that $7,100, and I really like him as well. I usually don't play Brian Stewart. Good number, right? You said you got him at 125. That's what he's on at Sportsbook, so I like him as well. Does Danny Lee sneak into the top 10? Certainly hope not. Brandon Stone, any argument against using Ricky Fowler in one and done this week? No, not really. You could save him for a bigger event if you think he's super talented, but most people have burned him by this point. Another question from Brandon says, Louis Oosthuizen or Brandt Snedeker for one and done? I'm using Snedeker on my alternate team, but if you're way back, and maybe I should make this change too, but no one's going to use Louis. So if Louis does hit, even with like a top 3 finish, you're going to be dancing versus the field. Yeah, that's sort of where I am. So I'm using the Louis / Kevin Na / guys that aren't necessarily going to do well strategy, that if they hit, you're going to be in the small minority of the guys who have them. Here we go. What do you am I crazy to fade Justin Rose? I don't think it's crazy to fade Justin Rose. I'm not fading Justin Rose, but you definitely can. As long as he doesn't win, you're doing pretty good. Yeah, it's not crazy to fade any of those guys except for Spieth. I mean, fade Spieth. Any love for Bud Colley? No. No love. This is not a scrambling course. So if it was, then I would have a little bit of love. Kevin Streelman, ? I hate these questions. I will answer this one. But in the future, if you just put a person's name in ? I'm not going to answer it. Like, what do you want to know? Ask me something about the particular person instead of saying, Streelman? Great. He's a player who plays golf. He's in this field. What else do you want to know? Ask me something specific. All right? Let's see. Kevin Streelman, I'm using him. I think he sets up well. He's been playing well. Use Kevin Streelman. Yeah. Par 4 scoring, I like that distance. Not a bad play. Not my favorite. I'm going to be on Streelman, but if you like him, play him. Greg says Duff Daddy seems a little pricey on both DK and the betting market. Any idea why? Well, ever since the new swing coach has come in, it's taken a while, but he started to pop a little bit with his irons, played really well at Quail Hollow at a course where he really shouldn't have because of his length. Didn't play well at Bethpage because he was never going to play well at Bethpage. He has won in this tournament before, hasn't he? Or has he come second twice? I think he's come second twice. Yeah, he plays well at the corollary courses like Heritage and places like that where he's not a bomber, and he does hit a lot of fairways, so he gets a boost that way. That's why that's why he's just overinflated a little bit. I'm not using him, but I get why he is. Any love? Any love?
Go ahead.
Go ahead on Duffner.
No, I was just saying he hasn't gained strokes putting in forever.
Yeah,
but
well, that's not nothing new for Jason Duffner.
Yeah.
Any love for Michael Thompson? No. This guy just says Thompson ? That gets you banned for life. Braden, what do you figure Xander's ownership to be? I have 11%.
Yeah, I mean he's going to get up there.
This guy asked, what do you have Andrew Putnam's ownership at? I have it at 1%.
Yeah, no one's playing Putnam this week.
What do you think of Tway, Lee, and Haas for value plays? All three finished this course the last 2 years inside the top 16 or better. Hey, if you want to play the course history and it works out for you, all the power to you. I have none of any of those guys.
God, Tway, I mean, God, he's not even gaining anything with fairways. He's like dead last in the field over the last 24 rounds and gaining fairways. And maybe he does the John Rahm thing where he just hits it a ton and then, tries to do it with his irons and his shorter irons. But even then, he's like 75th in, closer to 100 in the proximity with his wedges. So I'm out on Tway.
Thoughts on Kramer Hickok? Short and accurate approach game was good at the Byron Nelson and his hashtag from Texas. I mean, if anyone's from Texas, you got to use him. I'm out on him this week. I get the case for him. He is very, very poor with his short irons. So Byron Nelson worked out really well for him because he could hit his mid irons here. He's going to have to hit his short irons. And I just don't think that he makes enough birdies. Of the 10K guy group, which two would you fade? I'll give you 3 that I'll fade. I'll fade Xander. I'll fade Spieth. And I'll fade Ricky. I'll play Rose and Rahm. That would be my move.
Yep, same here.
What do you think about Vaughn Taylor this week? I actually used some Vaughn Taylor. I have him coming in at 8% ownership. I have 2 of 20 lineups with him in it, and I bet him his... No, I did not. Did I bet him his first round later? I don't think I did. I think I actually stayed away from that one. But either way, I did play him in my DraftKings lineup.
This is the thing of Vaughn Taylor. I looked at him as well because I saw that ownership number. I was like, why is Vaughn Taylor creeping up in ownership? And he'll win, and then he'll get 6 missed cuts following that win. So you got to take that risk with Vaughn Taylor. I'm not playing him, but I can see why you like him.
Is Casey way too chalky to play on DK? If you think he's going to play well, the answer is no. If you think anyone's going to play well, no one is too chalky. Why are you so high on Louis O? I'm not really high on Louis O. Mr. Oosthuizen, I mean, that's a great cop-out, writing Louis O, just so you don't need to spell out Oosthuizen. I'm with you on that as someone who writes professionally for a living. It's not that I sort of nothing him. I know that he's a good player. I know no one is going to own him. He showed up here last year and finished inside the top 5. So I think that he can come through. And if no one is going to own him and everyone's going to own Rory Sabatini and Joel Damon and Scott Piercy, I get why those guys rate out to be better plays this week. But Louis is just a substantially better player than all of those guys, maybe combined. That's why I ended up going to him. I have very few pivot plays this week where ownership comes into it, but that is one of them.
Yeah, I mean, if you go from even Poulter at $100 more all the way down to Joel Damon, right, you could easily say Poulter and Oosthuizen are like heaps better than those like 7 or 8 guys, right? I mean, just from a talent perspective, those guys rate out not necessarily as good recently, but talent-wise, they rate out a lot better.
Fade the 10K and start lineups with Casey Molly for a modified Stars and Scrubs. I mean, that would actually be a balanced build, so... If you want to do that, go do it. Let me rephrase the previous question. Would you pick Michael Thompson in a studs and duds lineup? Will he make the cut? I don't think so. We've already went over him. Is Case... I already did that. Since you're frozen and I'm looking at the N64 games, would you rather play GoldenEye, Mario Kart 64, or Zelda during a rain delay? Sneaky thing about GoldenEye, it's a fucking terrible game unless you're playing multiplayer. Like, the game itself is horrible. It's Zelda. Zelda's probably the best game of all time.
Yeah.
And I actually do enjoy multiplayer Mario Kart now more than I enjoy GoldenEye.
Wow. Okay, that's impressive. I mean, the Ocarina of Time was clearly one of the best games of N64.
Yeah. Kevin, why do you guys prefer Rose or Rahm? I mean, we went over this like the entire time at the beginning, so you can just rewind or check out like my articles or any of the shows from during the week. We don't really need to get into that. They're the two. I mean, along with Molinari, they're the 3 highest ranked players in the field. They're very good. Gim over under 4% ownership. I have him at over.
Yeah, it gets a mail bomb. He's over.
Armour or Lashley? I would go with Armour.
Yep, same.
Can you briefly explain cash versus tournament strategy? I mean, you take safe guys in cash, but there are no safe guys in golf. That's why I don't play cash.
Yeah, go GPPs.
Piercy and Damon ownerships. I believe I already did that one. Clearly see the potential upside for playing 2 sub and 7K guys and have done it before. Can you ever see a scenario where you play 3 sub 7K guys? Or is that something either of you would do? I actually have a few lineups with 3 6K guys this week. Superstars and scrubs lineup, so I'm not opposed to doing it.
No, not at all. I mean, like you mentioned, I named 3 guys that I like, so they're going to be in a lineup.
I got Corey Connors in a few lineups. What do you think about his current form? Got a cute wife, so I think that motivates him. Cute wife is a good call. Hot wife, not necessarily a thing. Brooks's girl, Ricky's girl, they're hot. Connor's wife looks like she's Canadian. I'm not going to lie to you. I like Corey Connors this week. I'm playing him in a bunch of spots.
Yeah, number 1 in approach for last 24 rounds, man. You got to play that, so I like him as well.
Thoughts on leaving money on the table on DK? I have constructed a couple lineups, and I have around 2K left. Is that a good way? If you leave $400 on the table, you'll differentiate your lineups. I think like you'll see optimal lineups that come in like 2K, and they're like, oh, the optimal lineup, you left $5,000 on the table. What scenario are you ever getting to that you're leaving $5,000 on the table? You're actively making your lineup worse, at least while you're building it. So I would not recommend doing that.
No, it's too much.
Hatting a good pivot off of ZJ and Sneds. I don't have ZJ in a bunch of ownerships or Sneds anyway, but sure, if you want to.
Yeah, I mean, you're pivoting off of who guys we like. So if you don't like us and our picks, then it's a good pivot off of. Yeah.
Erica, in Vegas, what U.S. Open bets have you made? I made the one. We made it in January. We have Terrell Hatton at 100-1 at the U.S. Open.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, no, it's not so nice. You could probably get him at 200-1 now. Neiman ownership. I guess that's the last one. I got Joaquin Neiman at 7% ownership this week.
Yeah. I mean, he's going to get up there too, especially when it's on bent. That's his surface. So
all right,
up there.
All right, here's the last one. This one's from Matthew. Sneds or Zach Johnson? I'm going Sneds.
I go ZJ.
All right. Sorry. Obviously, you can't see me out there because I'm frozen right now. I guess if you're listening to the audio podcast, you have no fucking clue what we're talking about. But Reid Fowler, tell everyone where they can watch you in non-frozen form and listen to you and follow you on Twitter.
Yeah, Reid T. Fowler on Twitter. We're going to be on the Sweat tonight talking more PGA, and hopefully we're not frozen there. Football's obviously coming back up, so Reid T. Fowler, you can just follow me, and all my links to videos, content, everything, write-ups are all there.
All right. You can follow me on Twitter at the PME, same as Instagram, same as Facebook. My betting cheat sheet is up on my Facebook page right now. It's also in the description of this video and or podcast. The Pat Mayo Experience Open DraftKings link also in the description of this podcast and video. Now only 350 spots remain. That's going to be full by 5 o'clock. So if you do want to go, get in now. This guy says, guys, pick your winner. We did that at the top of the show, and I have a betting cheat sheet, and I've done 2 other fucking shows this week, so just watch those. You can fucking figure it out, pal. All right. Now I'm mad. Actually, I'll be less mad if you smash the like button on the way out. That'd be nice. I'm Pat Mayo. Thank you all for watching. I'll see you next time.